So we've had the qualifying session for the Japanese Grand Prix, and it's kind of gone a bit as we expected, didn't it? The Red Bulls come roaring back. And we'll get to them in a minute, and we'll go straight into Q1. There's a potential incident with George Russell and Oscar Piastri for an unsafe release. Now that's going to be investigated after the session, so potentially a penalty coming the way of George Russell. What were Mercedes doing? It was the usual where we get all the cars queuing up, but they started to move out and they'd let Russell out. As Piastri was moving away, he had to take avoiding action, did Oscar, and it's a bit of a fine one because cars were queuing in the pit lane, but also moving by the time they pulled a bit of a late one there, Mercedes. So potentially some sort of penalty coming for George Russell. Let's see him wait and find out for that one. But yeah, Q1, Zhou Guanzhou, he's going to start last. He complained of sliding over the race, and he sort of said that was the best he can do, and he'd be really disappointed because his teammate pulled a blinder in that session. Valtteri Bottas, P8 in Q1, a fantastic lap from him. So Joe with his teammate pulled it off, so not sure what went wrong with him there, so he'll be disappointed with that. Logan Sargent lines up in 19th place. At least he wasn't last, which is probably the best he can hope for. He'd got to try and build his confidence again, isn't it? After a horrible start to the weekend. It's a difficult one. Suzuka is kind of all about the rhythm, isn't it, when you miss a session like that. I know an awful lot didn't happen in practice too because it was rained out so much, so he didn't lose as much as he probably thought he would, but didn't really quite get practice one, did he, Sargent? But P19 start for him. Kevin Magnussen, he'll be disappointed. A P18 start for him, beaten by his teammate again. Pierre Gasly, 17th place. He wasn't happy at all, was he, with his lap? And the most disappointing out of all is Lance Stroll goes out in P16. His teammate Alonso was actually second in that, so really, really disappointing from him to go out there. Verstappen led the way in that session, followed by Alonso and Perez, and it was a bit of a sign of things to come, wasn't it, from there. Into Q2, Ocon finished 15th, just sort of rounds off where Alpine are this weekend. A bit disappointing. I thought they might do better around here because it's not all about power, is it, this circuit, so kind of thought they might hide some of the weaknesses, but yeah, clearly not. Alex Albon, 14th place for him. Williams not as strong here as they probably would be another circuit, so a decent run for him. Potential make-up places, isn't there? There's some cars ahead of him that I think he might be able to beat tomorrow. Valtteri Bottas starts 13th place. I think that's a really good result from him and the Sauber team, who have actually got a semi-decent car under them, really, haven't they? Just need to iron out the issues. Let's see if they've got on top of this wheel nut issue in the race tomorrow, can have some decent pit stops, and see if they can fight the Haas ahead of him. Nico Hülkenberg in 12th place, a decent lap from him. Daniel Ricciardo qualifies in 11th, but he's been beaten by his teammates, so he was a bit disappointed with that. Yuki Tsunoda pulled off a brilliant one in his home race, P10 in that session. And it was Verstappen that led the way in Q2, Perez in second place, and Lewis Hamilton with a very good lap in P3, wasn't it? And it looked like Lewis and Mercedes could be the ones fighting for at least the second row of the grid, and potentially nicking a spot from Sergio Perez, but it wasn't to be, was it? In Q3 they really fell off, didn't they, the Mercedes? And it's a P10 for Yuki Tsunoda in his home race. Probably the best he could do there, really, because he wasn't as good as or close enough to the cars ahead of them. George Russell, disappointing. He has been beaten by his teammate, 0.8 off pole position, nearly a second off. Starts in 9th place. Charles Leclerc, Ferrari, of the glory of last weekend in Australia, really disappointing from him. He had one shot because he messed up in Q1, had to do 2 runs, a lot of set of tyres, and he just got the one run, which really compromises you. You can't really go out right at the end of the session because you've not really got a banker in, you're out of sync, and a P8 lineup for him, he'll be disappointed. Lewis Hamilton, P7, half a second off pole position, he'll be disappointed in it. I think overall, if you look at where they were sort of 3rd, 4th, have been in practice, so I thought he would have done higher up than that, especially looking at where he was in Q2, and that evolution didn't really come from them. Oscar Piastri, P6 performance from him, I think that's a decent result. Fernando Alonso in P5, I think that's a solid result from him. He's just 0.004 of a second off beating Carlos Sainz, who lines up in 4th place. A really good lap from Carlos, beats his teammate Charles Leclerc, doesn't he? Sainz again. And it was a fantastic lap from Lando Norris, lines up in 3rd place, just short of 0.3 off pole position. They looked the most comfortable, closest to the Red Bulls, just couldn't quite get the lap together, did they? And it was a brilliant qualifying session from Sergio Perez. This is kind of what we really need, wasn't he? Right on it. Missed out on pole by just 0.066, so just over half a tenth of a second behind Max Verstappen, and it looked like at one point could he have nicked pole, just fall short. Max Verstappen took pole position. It wasn't a magnificent lap from him, wasn't it, like we normally see, but even despite a poor sector on his final lap, he still managed to beat his time, and he did just enough, but that's all that counts. If you're P1, it doesn't matter how great the lap is, as long as you're faster than everyone else. And it's a Red Bull 1-2 lineup tomorrow. Will we just see them two pair of them run away there? There is some hope for the rest, because in practice their long runs weren't fantastic, but they've done a lot of work over the card, said Sergio. So we'll see how that pans out. But Lando Norris is in there right behind, isn't he? Could he nick a first win for him tomorrow? That would be a brilliant story, wouldn't it, if he can pull that off tomorrow? But you can't see past the Red Bulls, let's be honest with you. But in behind it is close. There's not an awful lot between Sainz and Alonso. You've got McLaren and Piastri behind. Hamilton and Mercedes did well, so they'll be in. It'll look like there should be a battle behind. I'm hoping it's not just a gravy train round we go, and hopefully some decent action for the race tomorrow. But there we have it, an interesting qualifying session, but Red Bull have just come fighting back after they had a horrible weekend last weekend, and that's it, a 1-2 performance. Max showing who's boss, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant performance from him. We knew this circuit would really suit them, and to see both of them up there, it's telling, isn't it? But that's just where we are at the off moment with these two Red Bull cars being absolutely phenomenal. But that's the review of the qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix. Watch out for the race review to come tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always. See you tomorrow.